We are very pleased to welcome Tom Carroll. It's been fun actually seeing Tom and Cheryl Francis kind of interact today. Both were senior leaders at R.R. Donnelley at some time past, and it was fun to see a reconnection today. And Tom now brings that executive experience together with his work as a professor. And he's offering some interesting perspectives today on expectations around work, leadership, and how cultural are changing. The focus will be all about generations. And so Tom will share a 20-minute Spark Talk. So Tom, I welcome you to the stage.
Can you hear me? Yeah, you can. Professor, I usually have a class about double this size and no mic at all. So general makeup of the American workforce today. I've been looking at this since 2020 or 2006, when the still children. And now, so let's just start with who's in the room. And I want you to look around. If you are 62 or older, raise your hand. There are boomers, and we're going to talk about life experiences. And then we've got 61 to 46 in the room. Ooh, Gen Xers with an attitude. We love you, people. You fundamentally changed the work environment greater than any other generation. We're going to talk about how and why. And you are also intolerant of meetings that get you nothing. So I'm going to try to deliver. All right. Our millennials, 45 to 30 in the room. Oh, all right. I'm surprised there's that few of you in this room. So, but we're going to talk about the life experiences of each one of these generations. And then Gen Z, 29 to 14. I'm thinking there's no one in the room. These are all my seniors. So I teach seniors in leadership development. And the thing is they're really getting ready to go out into the workforce. And little concepts like, hey, you might want to bring a healthy attitude to work because your employer would like for you to show up with a little joy and a little excitement and a little bit of what you're going to do for them versus what they're going to do for you. So our last generation, we definitely should not see in this room because it's Generation Alpha, who I'm not going to talk about today, and is our youngest generation, all under age 13 and under. Now, one of the things about that generation is it is the coming generation, and literally 20 years from now, we'll be talking about that generation of the workforce. So let's get into generations are developed and structured usually because of sociological events. So let's talk COVID, our recent sociological event. Creating what do you think COVID created?
Isolation.
Isolation. Headaches for sure for lots of people. Because think about it, every day was a new adventure in what we were going to do. Okay? But absolutely isolation, which actually has created more anxiety and depression in younger people than any other group of people suffering from anxiety and depression. Now, us old people were like, yeah, this kind of sucks. But we've been through things that have already sucked. So we basically seem to do okay. So the older you were, even though your risk of death was higher, your anxiety and depression was not as great. Go figure what a little wisdom will do. Okay, so let's go to our boomers, though. Our boomers, what probably affected the boomers?
War.
The war. War absolutely affected the boomers. It set a tone for our boomers about what work would be like. So first of all, marriage. We were going to be married for sure. We were going to have a traditional family for sure. This is all going to change. And one of the things that we were going to have is typically dad out working, mom at home, until the younger boomers were like, We also had sex, drugs, and rock and roll, okay, for that generation. We also had more people going to college and more women choosing different careers. And so boomer women that entered the workforce were not necessarily welcomed and actually had to really work their butts off, especially if you were a minority boomer woman in the workforce. And you know, I'm talking to you if you've had those experiences. So our boomers also set this tone. work must get done before fun. And the boomers brought us the 80-hour work week. Because boomers brought us FaceTime. I have to be in the office. I have to be seen. They have to know I'm valuable. They have to know that I'm working hard. I don't ever leave before my boss leaves. These are all boomer statements and behaviors. And again, it's going to change. Okay? Because that's not how things are going to go as we cross these next generations. So our boomers brought us, hey, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be loyal to my organization, and loyalty and hard work really should see me through. And yet, what happened for our boomers? Divorce rates began to skyrocket. Boomers basically ended up being laid off during the recession of the 80s and 90s. Their kids at home watched that happen and began to ask this question: why should I give all this time and energy to an employer? So Gen Xers are our latchkey kids. Gen Xers basically were at home, either taking care of themselves or taking care of their siblings while both parents were out working. Gen Xers had a bit of an attitude because you know what? Technology was generated and technology began. Cable television, the World Wide Web. It wasn't unfamiliar to Gen Xers, but began around that time. And you know what Gen X found out with access and transparency? People lie. The government lies, the church lies, the schools lie, people lie. And you know what? They began to realize that they really couldn't necessarily trust everything everybody said. And Gen Xers began to be some of the best sniffers of BS. And so our Gen Xers, independent, absolutely don't want to have time wasted, viewed career very differently than our boomers because career was climb up. Our Xers were like, my security lies in the skills that I have. Therefore, I need to climb across. I don't need to be bound by my college major. So I'm an accountant, but I'd like to work in IT. So I'm an accountant. I'd like to work in sales. So I'm an accountant. I'm going to go work in HR. And the thing is that I want to be able to work across the organization because I want to acquire skill sets that are going to give me security. And this was the first time that we moved from the organization working for IBM for 100 years is going to basically make me secure, versus Gen X that was like, wait, 100 years at IBM isn't going to make me secure. I'm going to make these secure. Fierce independence came into the work environment and expected a competent boss that was going to teach them, not somebody that elevated because of time. Because remember our boomers, I'm loyal, I'm staying, I'm going to be here. And literally in 20 years, I should be promoted. And in 20 more years, I should be the VP. And in 20 more years, I should run the company. Climbing up. Our Xers were like, why climb up when I could climb across and acquire more skills and then go out and have security, job security with those skills? Therefore, I want a leader who's going to actually help me acquire skills and not lock me into, I'm going to be an accountant and there I shall be for 50 years. Then it brings us some millennials. Well, I want to go back to the Xers, change the work environment more than any other. Here's why. Less that they them showed up to classic work. This was a period of time when we began doing job sharing. We began doing sabbaticals. We began doing take your dog to work day. We began doing all sorts of things, sign-on bonuses. We began to look at resumes that the boomer or the Xers had changed jobs every 3 to 5 years. And we thought they're so well-rounded. Okay. And that if a boomer changed jobs every 3 to 5 years, we thought job hopper, not loyal, not committed. And the thing is my, how things changed. Because suddenly we went from job hopper, not committed, to, oh, how well-rounded they are because they worked for 5 companies in 10 years. So are millennials much the same in how they approached work? They actually wanted to approach a work environment. And I'm going to talk, I was a shrink for about a decade before I went into business. It helped. But one of the things that we had with our millennials is the following. Our traditionalists, our oldest population, where was danger? Outside the country. But by the time the millennial generation came around, where was danger? Yeah, in our schools. We began to see school shootings in that generation. And one of the things, well, as a boomer, we hid under our desks from the atomic bomb. Anybody remember hiding under your desk? It was super good, Jess. Obviously made by Steve Pace. So one of the things, though, we were in lockdown for our millennials because of school shootings. This created the following in the parents of millennials. I must constantly know what's going on for my children. I must constantly be aware of what's happening. I must constantly be in contact with them. I must constantly coach and mentor them. I must constantly tell them things they should do and shouldn't do. I literally became this helicopter parent, hovering about, making sure Johnny never face planted on the floor, because failure is one of the best lessons in the world, unless basically someone's always throwing a pillow down for you. In which case, you're not really learning from your failure. So your parents are calling your college professors to explain why you failed your tests. Your college professor, and I'm interested in talking to your parents. Even when I was a CHRO, I remember a termination and basically grandma's dead. Newsflash wasn't good news. Grandma was not dead, but the employee was confused. So I thought, if you're that confused, you shouldn't work here. So it was one of those moments where, but again, when I was terminating the employee, guess who called me? Dad. To explain why she was confused on grandma's alive or grandma's dead. I'm like, girl, you're a 45-year-old woman and your dad's calling for you. This is not the kind of thing we will tolerate in the work environment. This is one of the things we saw as parents showing up in interviews, parents showing up in the work environment. And the thing is is this really parents coming to orientation? Are you kidding me? No. So this is the kind of thing I coach my seniors on, because I'd worry they'll make idiots out of themselves before they ever start their career. So one of the things that we know is this helicopter parenting became a transference. Transference is, I have an authority figure in my life who basically hovers about constantly, who helps and guides and guides. And then I end up in the work environment, and guess what I expect of my authority figure? Fundamentally changing what leadership was really about. Because suddenly our millennial generation, the largest growing generation in the workforce today, basically became showing up to work, expecting their boss to basically be their mentor, their coach, their confidant, the person that watched over their career, the person that made sure they didn't fail, the person that was constantly giving chronic and ongoing feedback, versus our annual appraisal. Once a year, you're going to get to hear. Yeah, our millennials were like, why? Why wouldn't I hear every day that I'm awesome? I don't understand. And if you're a boomer, you're like, oh, I do not have time for this. And yet we've made time, because one of the things we realize is a huge shift in what we see from this generation. Now, our millennials also were probably, because remember, technology introduced to Gen X, and then our millennials take that to a completely different thing, where literally the computer in your hand, also known as your phone, can get you any information in a heartbeat, can tell you where your friends are. One of the things I'm going to have is that thing on 24/7, 365 chirping at me. And one of the things that we know for our millennials is they multitask. I'm on my phone, I'm talking, I'm doing my work, and yet our policies and practices is like, hey, get off your phone, get off the internet, get to work. Why you wasted time? And for millennials, it's like, hey, there's an archaic policy, because I can do all of these things at once. Now, most of us are like, I was a neuropsych. Your brain can only do so many things at the same time. And yeah, this is an amazing generation of people that seems to be able to do many things all at once, but a little bit needier than our previous generations. Remember our Xers, just give me time, let me work. I don't need you. I can fiercely, independently do my thing. Don't micromanage me. 2, I want to hear every single day from you. Okay, and then we have our Gen Zs. Gen Z basically showed up and is showing up now into the work environment with a kind of a different attitude than our millennials. They have the same view as Xers about career, climbing across the organization. They will stay with an organization that basically gives them career pathing. So some direction that they can actually go. And hey, here's how this will work. And the thing is that feels grounding to our Gen Zs. Our Gen Zs was our COVID generation. And the thing is that, and so one of the things we see in Gen Z is a desire for, hey, I want somebody to care about me and my mental health. And literally, what is the mental health benefit? Do we have days away from work, wellness days? Do we have flexibility? Now, one of the things Tim talked about is flexibility. All generations enjoy flexibility. All generations define flexibility differently. And so it's an interesting thing is if you just like, oh, we're flexible, but in what way? Because our Gen Z flexibility is things like, I want to be able to take mental health days. I want to be able to do and have a life outside of work. I'm not committing my entire life to this place. I'm not going to drive myself to insanity by working. Boomers. Boomers basically say this about retirement. When I retire, I'm going to do something I enjoy. So for 50 years, you haven't enjoyed what you've been doing? Gen Z's like, why would you stay? What would you be there for? Mission, purpose for our millennials and our Gen Zs matter. They will work hard. Absolutely. They will bust it out. However, they will bust it out because they believe in the mission of the organization. So mission and vision statements that are pretty plaques on walls do not engage your workforce. Missions and visions that actually are reality will actually make our workforce and retain our workforce. Now, what we also see from our millennials is greater college debt. And yet rarely do we see benefits that actually offer loan repayment. What benefit we offer is if you want to get an advanced degree, we'll pay for your education, but we're not going to actually help you cover the costs of your education. So you walk out with $60,000, $70,000 of debt and live in your parents' basement. Gen Z was like, oh no. We are going to go to community colleges. Gen Z went back to trade schools. Gen Z didn't necessarily do the 4-year, everyone's got to go to college or your life is horrible. They weren't raised like that. And therefore, they were a little more astute about money. And one of the things they're concerned about is not walking out of college with a huge amount of debt. And yet they still have it because college, university, $100,000 for 4 years easily. And the thing is that unless you're tripping over a wheelbarrow of cash, you're taking out loans to pay that off. Well, if I could do 2 years at a community college and then go to a 4-year college, I am going to save myself from being in such debt. And so we see the growth in the community colleges and we see the growth in the universities having larger junior, senior classes. So our Gen Z's technology was in their hand. But here's the thing about Gen Z. Gen Z took it to a whole new level with commerce. Gen Z will buy a car. Gen Z will get a mortgage, all on their phone. Boomers are like, oh no, we need to go to the bank and see the banker. I want to talk to someone if I'm going to get money and to sign up. And why, are you kidding me? You're going to drive over and get my car and drop one off? No. I'm going to go and look at a car and see a car. You see this whole personal relationship our boomers want to have with their stuff? Our Gen Zs are like, who cares? If I don't like the car, I'll return it. And the thing is that, and it's like, oh, I got a better deal on a loan somewhere else, I'll take it. They are incredible users of commerce on their phone at a level that we would never choose to be. And therefore, when we think about giving feedback, our daily feedback, one of the things that we need to think about is the enabling technology. So what we see across these generations is shifting in how family was structured and what family meant, because Gen Z has chosen family. Basically, they don't really care. Are you white? Are you black? Are you male? Are you female? Are you a heterosexual, homosexual? Whatever you are, we're good. And the thing is that one of the things that we'd like to have as a group of people is basically a great work environment where people are happy. And the thing is that our Gen Zers showed up to that work environment with kind of a good attitude. And the thing is that, and did they get welcomed? because the basics on Maslow's hierarchy after safety is belonging. Our millennials wanted to have that too, because remember how important safety was to them? Yeah. And one of the things, what creates safety in the environment, that sense of belonging. So a very different view on money, very different view on family that changed over time. You can see this in the media. If you think about the boomer families, the Partridge Family, anybody? The Brady Bunch? Yeah. And the Brady Bunch was basically, you know, mom and dad's spouses died because we didn't want to start a show up with divorce because we didn't want to talk about that. To today, when families like the Kardashians are representing what a family's really about. Let us hope that we're better than that. So one of the things as we begin to watch and shift the changes and the shifts in culture, the changes and shifts in our generations, what drove the changes that are there. So one of the things as we think about being a board member, being a board member means I can sit back and literally have a bigger view, a more anticipatory view of what's coming and what's needed, and understanding what is the makeup of our workforce. We used to age and service profile our entire salaried and above workforce to be able to look and go, ooh, we've got a huge retirement coming of a third of our workforce is leaving in the next 10 years. What does that really mean then? That means something for succession. That means something for what I want to build my benefit program around. That means something that I might want to start thinking about. How am I upskilling the leaders in my organization to address the needs for my leaders? All of these things become board topics, which means the relationship with the CHRO is strong. It also means the people data comes before the board and becomes as important as the financial data.